Welcome everybody to the show. This is Minutes with Mpumi. Thank you so much for tuning in. This show tries to bring you the best people who have overcome many challenges in their lives. It teaches you the substance of learning through deep work, patience, and growing in your businesses. This show tries by all means to make sure that after watching it, you don't only know what you're supposed to do, but you go out and act. Today, we have one specific lady who will bring you that. She goes by the name of Telana Simpson, and she is a courage coach. She's also an NLP and neurosemantic coach. She helps people by making them try to live a brave life and shine, to reconnect with themselves and live their truest life. She has interviewed and coached executives, entrepreneurs, and even personal coaches in her own life. She does this by making sure that you have conversations that count in your workplace, in your family and environment. I'm not going to say much about her because she's right next to me, and the next minutes with Mpumi and Telana will be up to you to decide. Yes, Telana, thank you so much for coming to the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks,
so you are a life coach, but actually a courage coach. And you help people to reconnect with themselves by reaching their truest self. You do this through coaching, public speaking, podcasts, and even also you have, by writing, you have books that you've written, online books. So how do you do this and why do you do it?
Well, I think you explained the how. It's a lot of one-on-one conversations, and I really try and share content that gets people to think and helps them in their life. But I think what I do, I think it's just who I am. I think for me, communication has been my biggest challenge in my life. And the more I've learned to express myself more authentically, more truthfully, and have those hard conversations, the more I've improved my communication, which is a key part of relationships, the more enjoyment I've had and the healthier I've actually been in my life. So if it's just something I can pass on to others, I think that's what gets me to do what I do. It's just I've managed to improve myself, and I just seem to have a way of helping others to do that as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I think
it actually does. But I want to know, you mentioned authentically. So you are saying that people do communicate, but the authenticity is not the easy part. So how do you do? How do people communicate authentically? Because truth is not comfortable.
Truth is especially with truth with a capital T is people find very uncomfortable. But yet it's usually the thing that is most needed to be said. It's the thing that will help people shift whatever it is they're trying to shift. It will help them to deepen their relationship or have more not so many fake relationships, if that makes sense. So how I do it is, one, as an individual, you need to know what your truth is. I think that's sometimes the hardest part as well. We're so busy trying to please everyone and make sure everyone's okay with us, and that we present it in a way that people will like us, and that we sometimes lose touch with what's actually our truth. So I think the start of it is getting in touch with that and being honest with ourselves, truthful with ourselves, before we can even start to be truthful with someone else. So that was part of it. And then it's having the inner strength, the really be getting strong within ourselves, so that we know that when we present what we need to another person, our truth, for whatever that is, that however that person takes it, that's their stuff. And as long as we've done it in the most respectful and kind way, we've done what we've needed to do.
So Telana, you are a meta coach, right? And you guys coach about NLP and neurosemantics. And I would like you to tell us about that, our audience. What is neuro-linguistic psychology and neurosemantic psychology? What does that entail thoroughly?
Okay.
Yes.
Well, just to explain, when you say meta coach is a style of coaching. It's like the methodology that we used. So more I use that as the psychology behind the way I coach. And then I specialize in the area of courage and bravery and self-expression. Mm-hmm. So meta coaching has come from the cognitive behavioral sciences. So cognitive is our thinking and how it affects our behaving. those sciences are, and the specific ones that meta coaching is built around is the neuro-linguistic programming and neurosemantics. Now, neuro-linguistic programming has been a cognitive behavioral psychology, and that is really just about our being our neurology, so our brain that goes down our spinal cord into our nerves, into every part of our body. And then linguistic is language.
Okay.
We as humans are like the only creature that really has such an extensive language. We have an ability to create meaning and then to transfer meaning through communicating to another person in this thing where we call languages. And just think about how many languages are around in the world. So that's how we do the language part. Neuro-linguistic, actually, linguist is all about language and meaning, because we as humans have this ability to talk about meaning.
Oh, wow.
And in programming, it becomes like a program or a pattern or a thing that runs within us. Neurosemantics grew out of NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and again, it's neuro being our neurology and semantics meaning. It's how we feel meaning in our body.
Oh, wow.
So really, it's just it's almost like when you learn a lot about those cognitive behavioral sciences, it's understanding how we run this mind, body, emotion system. How do we get our body to do what
it's supposed to do?
What we want it to do. Because, you always say to yourself, when, let's think of an example. Sales calls. A lot of people need to make sales calls and they hate rejection. So they avoid it, they procrastinate, they do everything else except just pick up the phone and make the call to then ask the questions. So that becomes like the pattern of avoidance, of struggling to pick up the phone, of sweating or panicking or whatever it is before they do it. Whereas a different pattern, if you change the meanings, your body will feel different around it. And then, so therefore it's much easier to then, listen, I'm just asking the person a question. I'm going to see if they meet the criteria, if they have a need for what I'm selling, what I have, solution for. And it's just a question, just a conversation. You're more likely to just pick up the phone, dial the number and ask the questions. So I don't know if that brings, it's the mindset and, the way your beliefs and meanings and how it makes you feel in your body such that you have these programs or ways of them behaving in the world.
So you're saying is it like habits? Does it have to do with habits? Like because now I'm perceiving this thing as this, so my perception of it actually gives it meaning. And then as the meaning, multiplies, I act in a way that the meaning has multiplied. Is that what you're saying? Because I wanted to try and say it in simple words. Like, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm saying. So what it is really, it's like no one gave us a manual on how to run this brain, this mind, body, and then we have all these emotions that run in it. So basically it's just that. It's learning that we have a mind and that we have a way of perceiving things, and that influences how we feel in our body, and how we feel influences how we act. So it's just trying to break things down into the components and understanding they're all still in a system, but then understanding you can make tweaks in certain aspects of it, which helps us to then behave in the world, because it's our behavior that gets us our results. Whether you pick up that phone or not is going to depend on whether you meet your targets for your sales calls or not.
The action is what
the action gets the results. But then what stops you from picking up that phone is your fear of rejection.
So that is
that's more the thinking, and then it creates this fear in you that
wow. And that goes to, I know one of your books you talk about maps and filters, right? And a big part of it says these filters are what we were taught. We grew up being fed all these filters and these maps. And I mean, a lot of us we view the world as how we are brought up, right? And the environment we're in, what we are surrounded by, that is how we view the world. So how do I change my filters and my maps and be able to say, okay, I'm being brave, because you're a brave coach. You help people to be brave and to shine. So how do I do that then with those filters and those maps? How do I then take them out the process?
So the start is just understanding that we have filters. That what you're perceiving in your mind is just your perception. It's not the actual reality. We will never, as humans, we will never, ever, ever, none of us will know exactly what is happening in reality right now in front of us. Because every single person all that information is coming at us through our senses, and then we're filtering that information based on our filters and creating a picture, a map in our mind of what we think is happening in this territory, in the reality. So, but from your perspective, your filters are different. So you are going to see what's happening in a different way to what I will see. Together, if we were to share what we see, we get a much fuller idea, a better picture of what's actually happening. But we'll never know 100% because it's just, there's too much information in this amazing world of ours. So our filters are almost like glasses, like, whether you're wearing rose-tinted glasses they always talk about, or sunglasses, dark ones, or yellow ones, or clear ones. That influences how you're seeing what's happening in front of you.
Those are your
which
filters.
Glasses. And that's the filters, and how those are developed. So which set of glasses you're wearing, as you said, comes from your upbringing, comes from your, what we call your conditioning, from the way you were brought up. So from the time when you're born, you're already starting to soak in information around you, learn from your parents, from your caregivers, whoever's looking after you, from school, from your culture, from TV, because TV is a huge part of everyone's life now, from the media, newspapers, books, school, the teachers, the kind of subjects you're exposed to, geography. If you live in a rural area or a city, you can have a very different set of glasses that you see the world through. Your religion, the economy of the world, of your country, historical events, wars, world wars, big, like the volcano that's happening now in I think it's Mauritius, or September 11th. All of those kind of events affects the whole world, affects how we are interpreting, and it affects our glasses that we're wearing, with our filters, which then depends on, and we get used to it. We're so used to wearing these glasses that we've had on that's got dirty and got colorful patches from whatever our conditioning is, that we just think that's how the world is. And then you must see the world the same way, because I don't have glasses on. We don't even know. That's what I say. So as you would say, how do we change them? The starting place is understanding that you are wearing glasses. Because then when you wear them all day, you forget that you have them on. Your body gets acclimatized to it. You get used to it.
Wow.
So from the time you are born, you are developing your filters. We are so close to them, we don't realize it's part of becoming more conscious of ourselves and aware, is understanding that we wear these glasses.
Wow.
And then the next point is like, oh, well, if I'm wearing them and they came from my upbringing, are they the most useful glasses for what I'm trying to achieve and experience in this moment? And that's why, so I love diversity. I love speaking to people and finding out what goes on for them, because from their glasses, I will see something else. If I were to change position with you, I would see the different part of this room that I can't see. I can't see what's behind me. But you can, because your glasses, from where your perspective in life,
my glasses,
you can see, and you.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great that that you're wearing them, so because it allows us to talk about these things called filters, because they're intangible. They literally just, they are our beliefs, the meanings we give to things, the intentions we have, the purpose in what we're doing. The emotions can act as filters, past experiences, our thinking styles. There's so many styles of thinking and we develop, them as we grow and are educated, and whatever we study will influence your thinking styles. So all of those things are our filters, and hence they influence what we actually see happening in this moment.
So it's not reality, it's our glasses.
It's our version of reality that we are seeing from our glasses. So if I had dark glasses on that are, that black kind of shading, everything would look a lot darker now here, and I'll say, oh, this room is dark. Meanwhile, yours are clear and you can see, but no, there's light. It's actually not that dark.
So what then is reality?
That's what I say, we'll never know for sure.
Wow.
So it's about can we develop the most useful set of filters that will allow in the most information that is closest and most accurate to the territory, to the actual reality. And that's why also speaking to people and finding out how do you see this? Because you will add more information that I can't see based on our difference in filters. Doesn't mean you have to agree with someone else's filters. Or you see, the filters create what we call a map. It creates your version, your perception of what the reality is. So I say to people, you don't have to agree with and accept everyone's map, everyone's version of reality, but there might be something useful.
There might be something useful. You just don't have to accept it.
Yeah, because some maps are not the most useful or healthy ones, because the glasses that person's wearing, their filters, are so impoverished or lacking in certain, or dirty. Do you know what I mean? That they're not, or slanted one way, that they only see. But even there, it's still useful. But yeah, so diversity, different people give us different perspectives on what's actually happening. That's how we can learn more about what's really going on in the moment.
Which is the perceived reality. Wow, guys, I'm so blown away. I'm not sure about you. But also, Telana, there's a part where you highly talk about the movie The Matrix, and the part that I think the whole idea is that comes to what you're saying, which is the perception of our reality. And in the movie The Matrix, Morpheus, which you also mention in one of your works, he says to Neo asks, what is the way? And then he says, the way is, you will never know the way until you do something, regardless of, independent, I think, of the feedback, or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing because of the fear of the unknown, right? But how then do we know, with what you just said, how then do we know that this is the known or the unknown? I'm not sure if I'm putting my question correctly, but
but you're not asking then that, because anything that we haven't experienced yet, that we haven't had, like literally an experience, a touch, or a moment, we haven't developed a map of. We may have heard other people's experience, so we have some kind of a perception of what might be happening in this territory, as we're talking reality. But if we haven't experienced that, then it's unknown to us. Yeah, it's unknown to me. So, and there's a part in terms of our self-preservation. We want to be more alert and aware when we are going into a situation that's unknown, because there could be dangers.
Yeah.
Right? There could be something that could impact us negatively, in whatever way, emotionally or physically, and that. So you want to be more alert, but they think the key is for us to engage and to learn and to expand our knowledge, our map of the world, to have more experiences. We need to still step into the unknown. So it's fear shouldn't stop us from doing something. Fear is just there to like warn us to be more prepared. This is something you haven't been in, a situation you haven't been in before. So go in and be alert, or
be prepared.
Take some preparation with you. That's really what fear. Fear should not stop us from engaging
in any sort of
very. I suppose it's very extreme. Jumping off a building is not exactly. You should be fearful and not engage in that. But you know what I mean. It's talking more about just interacting with people, or trying to extend ourselves so that we learn something new. I mean, I think the biggest fear people have is the fear of failure, in that they're so scared of what would other people say if I didn't get this right, or I'm going to be shown that I'm worthless, that I don't have any value. So they hold themselves from being, but then they never learn, and they never get to experience, they never get to grow themselves and gain what's confidence, for example, only comes from practice, from engagement, from taking action.
But then why do you think that? Like, why do you think people are so afraid? I mean, you guys teach people to shine and to be brave. And I know currently there's a lady who's very big on the topic of being brave, Brené Brown. And when I listen to you and your work, and I see her, oh, there's actually one and the same thing, vulnerability. Then how do you guys teach people that? Because people, I mean, it's a huge percentage of that. People are scared. People have fears and all. So how do you then do it?
So part of it, first is, like, we go back again, to the filters. So the understanding that you have filters, and it's just your map of the world. It's just the glasses you're wearing. You can change them. You can choose to take that off and try in a different, set of glasses, a different filter. with that, understanding that, then there's some kind of filter you have that is making this situation seem worse than it is. Because when you come and ask a person, like, what are you really scared of? It's nothing that will literally, harm them, harm their life, or kill them. It's more often a perception of, I'm not good enough. That to me has always been what the bottom is. When we work through the layers of it, it comes down to not feeling good enough. And if I do this and I fail at it, then I've just proved to the world that I'm not good enough. So we talk about, and how to do it is to separate your sense of value, because you are enough.
Wow.
It's to really understand that as a human being, you have innate value. It's your expression, your doing that may not be good enough because you haven't got the result. But the only way to learn, to develop a skill or to develop an expression is by doing it.
But is that true? Is that really what it is? Because, I mean, Telana, the world recognizes the people who, if someone comes to you, and people now, we want to know what's a person's title, what they're driving, the kind of job you're working, says a lot about
conditioned.
Yeah.
Very conditioned in terms of our society to base our sense of worth on our doing. To me, it's one of the biggest myths around self-esteem and self-confidence is that we have been conditioned and brought up to believe that they are the same thing. There's very few people that can distinctly explain to me the difference.
What is the difference then?
So again, the difference is esteem is about our being and confidence is about our doing. And when you understand that you are a human being of worth and value, it's innate. Just by being alive,
by being born, by being here,
we have value. And that you're here to add your value to the world. The world's not here to make you into a human being. You already are. So you're here to add your value by learning a skill, by learning an expression. An expression could be an art form or just a way of helping people, whatever it is. But we're here to add our value to the world. Confidence comes from doing that skill that we're using. That we do, we need to develop it. The only way to develop it is to practice it. The only way to practice is to do. And then the more you do, you gain more confidence. And when you don't get it right, it's just feedback. It's just information to say, you need to tweak it. That didn't work, so what will work? We need to do less of that and more of this, or whatever it is to. So you were asking me about what's holding most people back. It's usually this fear of failure because they've linked their being to their doing.
They've linked who they are, being a human being,
to what they're doing. And it's reinforced by society. So again, if you understand filters, you can say, well, I'm not going to pick up that conditioning, that filter from society. Because there's another way. If I use a different set of glasses and I take on that I'm a human being of worth and value, and I'm here to add my value to the world, and that sometimes I'm not going to get it right, but that's just how I learn.
And that's okay.
That's okay. You're more likely to get up every day and go and try something and get the feedback and want the feedback to learn so that you can add more of your value to the world.
I think what adds to that is with all the information that is so accessible, I think failure is supposed to be decreased. That how can you fail when there's so much information? I think that is what's contributing to people being afraid.
Because we expect it always to be instant.
Yeah,
like
because
you've read it, you should be able to just do it.
Yeah.
But then it goes back again to this mind, body, emotion system. Is you have to develop what we call muscle memory for whatever it is you're doing. You have to develop the neurological pathways. So part of that is reading, learning, consuming content online. But until you live it, you are not going to develop the memory in your neurology, in your body, of how to do that, how to express that.
Is that the fear of the unknown? When you start actually doing?
No, it could be because people are scared because they don't know. But see, for me, the fear of the unknown is more out there. We don't know whether this person's going to like us or not. We don't know whether we're going to get it right or not.
Okay.
But I'm saying the only way to start developing that skill is you have to do so that your body develops. Because it's going back to your point more about you saying society just expects you to do it like instantaneously. Your first attempt, you should get it right. And so then we belittle and we look at, oh, they failed.
Yeah.
Instead of encouraging them and say, look, when a little child is learning to walk and they're still developing brain coordination, the muscle memory, the strength of how to walk. When they fall, we don't go, oh, you terrible, you should be able to run by now.
Yeah.
We go, oh, and we clap hands like, try again.
Actually, that's so true.
Why don't we keep doing that?
So
When
true.
someone fails, do you know what I mean? They're actually attempting to learn something. We should be going, yes, go girl.
Wow.
Get up, try again.
Wow.
Giving them feedback. Say, did you notice that that's the area? If you just moved your foot one bit higher or forward, you would have got it.
So the result is a feedback. It's not to say you have. But then what happens, especially to, school kids, but throughout the years, first term, second term, third term, at the end of the year.
Again, that's the conditioning. Our whole education system is based on there can only be one person who gets top of the class.
Wow.
And we what's the word? We reinforce, celebrate that success, like 80%, you're great. And we make it about it. We don't commend the person on their effort they put in, or say, you put a lot of effort and therefore you're getting the results. And someone who's struggling at school, we make it about them. You're stupid. You've done something wrong. Instead of saying, what part of the subject are you not getting? How much effort did you put in to studying? Because if you don't put the hours in, you're not going to get the results. And so then again, it reinforces that misperception that I'm not good enough, because look, I can't just, if she can just sit down and write and get 80% and I can't, there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
So why even bother?
But that is just how we grew up, and
it's reinforced. So it's also, it gets to two different mindsets. The one is called the growth or the get better mindset versus the be good mindset.
Okay.
Be good mindset is either you do it or you don't. You either got it or you don't. So if you can't get 80% on your first test, then you can't get it, so you don't even bother. And that's how we feel. We don't. Whereas the get better mindset says, well, if someone else, if we look at someone else, we look at them as an example of what's possible. How much studying did she do? What did she get about the subject that I haven't got that led her to get the 80?
And that's how you get better.
And let me see, I didn't do. And then look at, did I improve since my last test? Am I working? Am I improving? So rather comparing ourselves against ourselves, like last test I only put an hour in, this test I put 5 hours, and look, I doubled my mark. Then we're learning, okay, so you have to put in the time. So I don't know if that makes sense. It's really comes down to, I encourage everyone, and part of, I suppose, what you're saying in the coaching I do is helping people develop that better mindset and getting a really strong sense of self-esteem so that we can express ourselves the way we want to in this world. We can have the experiences to learn, to get to in touch, to learn more about the reality, because the more we engage with it, the more we will know it.
What then is being brave and shining in your authenticity? What then is that?
So for me, it's getting in touch with what you really want to do, what you need to say, and having the courage to express that, despite what everyone else will say
after that.
Because it's like you're here to be you and to relate to people. But what happens is we're so focused on the outside on what everyone else thinks about us that we're trying to do what we think they want us to do so that they will like us, because otherwise we're not good enough. That's usually what we call other esteem. It's just you're giving your esteem to other people, and if they like you, then you're like, oh, I'm great. As soon as they don't like you or they don't answer your SMS straight away, then you take it personally. You're like, I must not be good enough.
Wow.
So being authentic, that for me is getting in touch with what we want to do in this world. How do we want to add our value, and being able to go out there and do what we need to do, and also being able to speak our truth when we need to, being able to say to someone, I actually didn't enjoy that movie, instead of just going along with the flow because everyone loved the movie.
But then, Telana, this is a very interesting topic, and I really hope you're getting so much value out of this, because I am blown away. And you help executives, you help managers, you have people who are employed, and a lot of people, a high percentage of people, the stats says 80% of people are not happy in their jobs, right? And when you go into these corporates and you say people must speak up, they think, but this is my job, I don't want to lose my job, you know. So some of these things become so unrealistic that, okay, we have so many coaches, we have so many people telling us to be brave, but what do I eat at night? I'm doing this because I have to eat at night. When is...
So speaking up for me is always contextual. So in other words, you've got to understand the context of where you need to and should be or shouldn't be speaking up, and intentional. There's some battles that are just not worth fighting. So don't even put your energy in there. But there are some battles that are absolutely worth it. So it's really in every context, and then there's a way that you speak up. You don't just go and blurt out and scream and shout, or it's how you
do it.
You do it. So depending what it is, if it's in the workplace, if your boss is making a decision that you really know that is going to actually cause more damage than anything, you're part of your role. You're there. Your responsibility is to help that organization as part of the team. You need to then speak up. But there's ways. There's to having crucial conversations. It's a great book. If anyone wants to learn about this, look at the book called Crucial Conversations.
It's by who?
Oh, I can't remember. There's 3 authors.
Okay, Crucial Conversations. Look up that book.
Send it to you. You can put it in. Yeah, you'll find it. You can put it in the show notes, whatever. But it's a great book on how to have these conversations, and they found a whole lot of people who are doing it that has a way of being respectful, as long as you're coming from a place of respect for the person you're speaking to, and brave. So you need the brave to start the conversation, but then it's how you say it. Like with all, we really need to rethink this decision, because I would just like to contribute from my perspective what I believe could be the result of this, and then let's relook, and if something like that. So there are ways. So it's not about just walking around saying and shouting and whatever you want to say. It's understanding, is this important enough? Is this the right context? Is this the right framework? Because maybe it's about rather having a private one-on-one conversation with a person and not in the group. And I don't know, there is so much happening in corporates. I hear all the stories. If more people spoke up, I really would love to believe that in a world like that, if more people were willing to have those crucial conversations, we would change the culture of a lot of those corporates, and people would start enjoying themselves more. But instead, somehow we shy away from those important conversations. And I understand, it's tough out there. There's so many people that need jobs that we're scared of losing our jobs. So as I say, it really comes down to choosing which fight you're gonna
the battle that you're gonna fight.
And if you decide not to fight that battle in that company, then
just live in it.
Do your work to find another job in another company. You don't have to quit immediately. That's another thing, is we think of everything as black or white, all or nothing. Hate this, I must quit now and then move on. It's like, take your time, put your CV out.
You also mentioned what I wanted us to go into actually, which is the all or nothing thinking, and that was a very interesting part actually, to find that, wow, because I used to do it myself. Especially while I was studying, if I'm not at the library by 8 o'clock, I'm not gonna go.
At all, for the whole day. But you actually touch on that no, it doesn't have to be like that, black or white, all or nothing. What is that? So it's one of those thinking styles. It's one of the filters, but it's like what we call a meta program. It's one of the programs, or a really high level filter, if you want to call it, that tends to color so many of the other ways of thinking. It's a thinking style. So every thinking style is on a continuum. So this all or nothing thinking style is one side of this continuum, is all or nothing. You either go extreme one way or you do nothing at all. It's all very black or white, right or wrong. There's no grey. There's no in between. The other side of the continuum is what we call multidimensionality, or the grey thinking. If you're looking at black or white, it's more grey. Instead of saying it's this or that, this is more, it could be both and. It can be this and it could be that. So are we able to be with multi-dimensional things that seem to contradict but exist at the same time? And part of it is also seen as all the grey, that there are a whole lot of different options. It's not just one or the other. So what tends to happen is if we overuse that thinking style, the way it can come out is like your example. It's like you set a goal that you're going to go to on diet on Monday, start gym on Monday. And Monday comes and all hell breaks loose at the office, and you never get to the gym. So therefore, okay, you're not going to do anything for the whole week. You're going to wait till next Monday.
Yeah.
And you miss out on a whole week. What's far more useful is looking for the grey. Okay, I didn't make it today, but tomorrow I can still go. Or if you didn't get to the library at 8 o'clock in the morning, well, it's okay. If I get there at 9, and even if I just do 2 hours, it still counts. It's still useful. It's still going to help you towards your goal. So it's really about just, we need both sides of this thinking. It's about having the flexibility. Can we shift, can we change the glasses depending on the context? Everything goes back to the context you're in. And what is your intention in that context? So if you want to study for the exam, 2 hours instead of none on that day is far more useful, right? So again, but again, we need all or nothing. All or nothing is useful in terms of when you need to make a decision. You can't, get up halfway. You either have to commit to get up off your chair, or you have to commit to stay sitting. And when we make a decision, it's saying no to something and yes to something else. So all or nothing is very useful in that kind of context.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's again about what's the most useful thinking style. Which side of this thinking style would be most helpful in this situation?
Okay.
But I find a lot of people, we've just, again, our conditioning, the society, this becomes what we call a driver. It's very strong in us, the all or nothing, the black or white.
So then it's white.
You have far less choice in what to do with this situation you're in. Whereas if you have the flexibility, it opens up all this range of all these different options
that you could have, that you actually have. Wow.
That you can then choose what will be the most useful to get the results in that moment.
So, Telana, you have done something that is so wonderful. And they actually call you the matchstick lady, right? And through a matchstick, you have done immensely great, right? And I want you to tell us, there's even a movie out. I mean, I saw the movie on YouTube while I was doing my research. And through one matchstick, you were able to go on holiday. Please.
Well, no, I didn't go on holiday. So,
share.
So let me explain. So what I'm trying to do is that I actually was inspired by a guy from Canada called Kyle MacDonald. He was trying to turn a red paperclip into a house. And it just blew me away. I thought, if this guy can do that, anything is possible.
A red paperclip into a mansion.
Well, not a mansion, just he got a house.
Okay.
But I mean, I suppose it could be a mansion to him. But so I, at the time, looked around and I had a matchstick on. I always have matchbox nearby. I love candles and that, so I had a matchstick, and I really needed an office. And I thought, as I was starting out my practice, I'm sure there's a whole lot of other startups, and we need more jobs. We need more people starting businesses to create jobs for people especially in our country. So a lot of startups, their battle is they need space to get going. They need a venue to hold meetings, whatever it is. So if I'm battling, I'm sure they are. So if I could turn this matchstick into an office, I want an office big enough where I can get some startups to, they can use the space as well. And then we can create more jobs. So what I did is I took this matchstick and I told everyone I knew. I started a blog and I said, I've got a matchstick. What will you give me for this matchstick? I'm aiming to trade it up, barter it up in value.
When you trade it, do you tell people what you want? Or
I might get to that now. So I started as whatever. Tell me what you will give me. What do you think is worth a matchstick? And I had a whole lot of people make me offers. And I chose to trade with the lady, Nikki, who gave me a ordinary green ballpoint pen. Because I said, if you trade with me, we're going to do it in a networking event, so you'll have exposure. So I thought that was most valuable. There were other items that people offered me that might have been a high-end value, but they didn't come with what was most valuable to me, which was exposure. So I went to that event, swapped her, took the pen, and then I said to everyone, I've got a pen. Who wants a pen? And then Megan, who was writing her thesis, said she'd give me this pen, and she gave me this toy frog in exchange. And then the toy frog I swapped with a lady for 2 books, and the 2 books I swapped for 2 cases of wine. The wine I swapped for that, so I swapped for the holiday. I think I would have stopped at
the wine. I would have drank all the bottles.
But that would be because that's, you know, your goal. My goal is to get to office space, because remember, I was just starting out. I needed...
Oh, by the time you haven't gotten your office space.
I haven't got there yet.
Okay.
Because this is like a part-time project on the side, little passion project, some people might call it. Yeah, so I swapped the wine for the holiday, and the holiday I swapped with 2 people for cash. The only thing they would give me was money.
Yeah.
So I thought, let me see what happens. That money was, I had the most offers for it, but it was the most difficult to trade, because what's interesting, what I learned is in my mind, I'm trying to go up in value. When I trade with someone, it's a fair exchange. They feel like they're getting...
They want the worth of that
item. Oh. But I'm thinking, will that item help me get to my final goal, right? So that's part of it. Whereas the cash, everyone was giving me exactly the same, sometimes less value. And I'm like, why would I give you more money than what you offer me in return? And I finally met this lady who had a voucher for a hot air balloon flight that she didn't want, and I swapped with her. It's worth more. And it was one of the best things. We swapped straight away. She got the cash, I got the hot air balloon flight. And then I got onto radio, and they heard about me, and we spoke, got a whole lot of offers, and I eventually chose to trade with Al, a DJ for a party for 150 people.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
I then traded that for 365 designer t-shirts, which took me 2 years to trade, because I traded each one individually.
There's the shirts.
The t-shirts. So it took me, I've learned so much about what to do, what not to do going forward. But it was great, because now I have 375 people wearing t-shirts that have a story to it. And that's where we designed the one matchstick t-shirt as well. Limited edition t-shirts. And then so I traded all those t-shirts. And at that time, I was entered into a little competition, and I won. That's another story, but I won. The competition was for a 50,000 Rand video. Wow. And that's what I turned that into the movie. So it's that movie is then about all my trades to that point. And then I traded, so all of those t-shirts I then turned into a trade with Wunderboom. I don't know if you know our awesome rock band. They're a brilliant brand, and they did a private rock concert. And I traded that for this couple for her birthday. And they've given me, I've got right now 3 boxes, I mean it goes up to about here, of all this wonderful gear that will get you off the grid. So it's solar panels to charge laptops and phones, and all the stuff around it. And yeah, a whole lot of stuff. Stands so that you can, earphones. I mean, the list is extensive, and I haven't yet found anyone who wants all that gear. But yeah, I'm hoping to be able to focus a lot more attention in the next month or 2. And what I'm trying to do now, and that's what you're saying, is so all this time now I put out there and say, make me an offer. If you've got something for this, make me an offer, and then I'm going to choose the best offer. I'm now trying to find someone who's got office space who wants to share it or be able to offer me a couple of years rent there. Find out what they need and see if I can trade back. Because then I will go and say, do you want this?
Do you want this?
And how, and trying to make them meet somewhere. That's my next plan.
So the point you're making, what I'm trying to get from the matchstick theory is that you are not focusing on what you are getting, but you are rather focusing on the value, or you're focusing on what you're getting and not the value. I just want to understand the principle behind it.
I'm focusing on my end goal, which is office space. Okay. And I'm trying to turn a matchstick into office space so that instead of paying rent in cash, I'm going to pay rent I'm going to swap for it. I'm going to
Okay.
barter for it. So every time someone makes me an offer, it needs to be value for value.
Wow.
I'm sure Kim Meredith always speaks about that.
Wow.
So it's about, I need to find someone who sees value in whatever it is. My 3 boxes of gear. There's someone out there who doesn't want to be dependent on electricity and wants to be mobile and have a mobile office and, you know, be very active in their life with all this gear that will help them to do that. They will find my 3 boxes very valuable. Then they need to make me an offer that I also find valuable.
Okay.
And for me, what's in the back of my mind, what makes what they can offer me valuable is if I believe I can trade it on, and I believe it's going to help me get to my final goal of office space. Because the office space I'm going to keep. I'm not going to trade that, you see.
Wow. So this is a value exchange.
It's all about,
it's caring about
value.
the next win-win. We both have to get value out of this.
Yes.
Wow.
Because people have made me
awesome.
offers which is just like, oh, I'll just give you this, and I'm like, no, you don't see value and I'm like, I don't want to trade with you then, because it's not authentic again. It's not being true to the principle of what I'm trying to do. Because really, everyone can start off with where they are. There's something right now in your environment, immediately around you, that is your next step to get you to your final goal. You just have to be creative. You have to look. Because a lot of people sit there and think, oh, I can't start a business because I don't have money.
Yeah.
You don't need money to start a business. You have got everything you need right now within reach. You're just not looking at it. It's again comes to those filters. Those people are conditioned, like, to start a business you must have money. No, look up the concept bootstrapping. You don't need it. You can. There are other ways. So I could not afford rent. So I know there's other entrepreneurs that can't. So I want to give back to this world. I want to help startups, get going. So hence my vision of the One Matchstick office will be big enough that I can offer a few startups space. And when they get their business going and they can afford rent, they must go and the next person must move in. So that we can take away that mental barrier that, you need. But also just the story, is inspiring people, because they're realizing, if I need something, there's something around me. There's a person that that can give you information. There's a book. There's a way of finding free internet to get access to a course. There are so many free courses online. So many that if you can go and find the free internet, because there's a lot of free internet if you look for it, you'll find that free course that will give you the certificate or the knowledge that will help you get to the next step. So that's what, I think besides I've learned about, the value for value, and I've also learned that everything is negotiable as long as both people want to find a resolution. Anything is possible, and you can start where you are.
Wow. Sure. So in Minutes with Mpumi, what we do is, after we've spoken about your speciality, right? In the research, we try to find something that is totally different from what you actually do. And in my research with you, we found one of your podcasts, you actually talk about ugly food. And I'm thinking, what is this? And I read about it, I'm like, oh wow, she definitely has to share this with us. So please, what is ugly food? What do you mean?
What is ugly food?
Yes.
Well, I got into to learn about ugly food and got me thinking about it. There's an article a couple of years ago in the National Geographic that talked about food, because food is a huge part. For you to be brave in this world, you need to be feeding your body. You need to have the energy and stamina to engage with the world. So food is all part of it, but we are, in terms of, you look at the whole food chain, this article in the National Geographic was saying that in terms of the amount of food we produce, we throw away, like literally it rots in a corner somewhere, 1/3 of the amount of food that we produce every year. And that amount that we throw away, that third, it's only 1/3, right, could feed every single hungry person in this world twice in that year. Do you know how much food that is? We should not have a single person hungry ever on this earth. We are able to produce more food than we need, and we are wasting it. So how we're wasting it is because part of it is we're also being conditioned, or I believe it's part of our conditioning. We've now become part of our consumerism, is that food must look a certain way, especially when it comes to like vegetables. Like if your food is not packaged in a certain way, if your carrots are not perfectly carrot shaped and perfectly orange.
There's even a carrot shape for carrots, even if they come out
Yes.
not that shape. So smart.
Yeah, so if they're not in what we think should be perfect, then it's not put on our shelves. Go into a supermarket. Like when you think of a carrot growing, if there's a rock there, the carrot will grow 2 roots around the rock.
Wow.
But then when you take that carrot out, it's this deformed in a way. It's ugly because it's not the perfect that we
Shape.
think a
It's
carrot
supposed to
should be. It's got now, 2 roots to it. But it's still a carrot. So the whole point of when I talk about that podcast that I did was when I realized that we're wasting so much food, what tends to happen is in all our supermarkets and that, they only buy food that fits perfectly on their shelves because that's what they're selling, right? It costs them to have that shelf. So if the carrots can't fit in the little bags,
Plastics,
you know what I mean? And your beans, if you look at beans, they're often chopped. What happens to their end bits if the bean is a bit longer than the bag?
Wow.
All of that is being thrown away, but it's still food. So
Sure.
the other part of it is also because we mass produce food and we with all the chemicals and the GMOs and all of that stuff. If you look at organic or biodynamic farming, it's something that is much more friendly to the earth, and the food has much more nutrition in it because there's no chemicals. It's used all natural, what comes in nature to manage growing the vegetables. Often that food will have blemishes on it. So often even the ugly food is not just the deformed because it's got
shape,
2 roots, the
but
shape
even
of it,
the blemishes.
but the little blemish on it.
Wow.
So in that I found a farmer in Joburg. Unfortunately, the farm closed down. There was just, we couldn't keep the farm going. But he in the podcast was saying that when a plant, if you think of a spinach leaf, if the insects come to eat it, the plant sends extra antioxidants to that patch to make it taste different, to put the insect off eating it.
Wow.
But antioxidants are really good for us in terms of our nutrients. So when there's a blemish in the vegetable, it actually has more nutrition in it. So it's this whole thing about ugly food for me is like, I wish supermarkets and that would buy all the ugly food. So all the farms, if they potatoes are not the perfect round, shape, if they're a bit wonky or a bit bigger, they get thrown away, they get pushed to the side. And if they can't find someone else to use them, that's what gets dumped and destroyed. I wish there was, when we go to a supermarket and there'll be, you pay for it, you pay extra for the perfect carrots and potatoes. But for the ugly food, it's still there on the shelf, and I would go and choose that because if I'm going to chop up the carrots, I'm not doing it like a gourmet meal where I want to perfectly present these tiny carrots on a plate. I'm going to be chopping up. It doesn't really matter if it has an extra root on it or not. So that's, it's a bit of a digression. I'd really valued Jacques and his work, Jacques and Promise on that farm. They've now moved further north, Nelspruit way, and I've got a farm there, getting that going. But yes, I've learned so much from him, and from that article and a few other things sparked just being so again aware. We so just conditioned that that's what vegetables look like, and not realizing that. And that's why you look at a lot of organic food that is grown more naturally and much more environmentally friendly, and it has higher nutritional content in it because the soil is looked after better. That food is all odd shapes. It's ugly compared to what we've been conditioned to say vegetables should look like.
Actually, not just weight losses, but say it's not ugly food, because the fact that we even calling it ugly on its own, it says that how are they actually supposed to look if these ones are ugly and these ones are beautiful? You understand what I'm saying? And it takes you back to even what you said, being brave again. I love the fact that you do work on bravery and on shineability. I mean, the word that I found on Google for you was shineability. And how then do someone finds their shine and then finally lives their spark. Like, hey, this is Mpumi and I'm out here and I'm living my bravery life and I'm shining. What does it look like to shine?
So for me, and it doesn't necessarily mean when you shine that it's this loud out there, you know, being famous or anything like that, like everyone knows you. It's just shining is really when we experience more joy, when life is just going a bit more like the way we want it to. We naturally have that glow. We're happy. You see, when you know, so that for me is more about shining. So one is like coming from the inside out, adding our value to the world. We have so much light within us. Can we shine it? Can we add it to the people around us, in our family, in our friends, in our workforce? Or if it's your calling is to go big, you know what I mean, and to go and write the next bestseller, or to create the next big massive business, or to become a movie star, whatever it is that, are we being brave enough to do that, to unlock ourselves, to add our value to this world in whatever way that is? Because then you shine. And by that,
from within.
Yeah, I really do. Also, we believe then that we give people around us permission to shine as in their way.
It's like the Marianne Wilson,
yes, quote.
Quote, yeah. Wow. That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Telana, for coming to the show. We really appreciate it. Help people become authentic, because authenticity is not glorified, you know. So your job is wonderful. It's really beautiful, and we really hope
blessed
that
to do it. Yeah.
you go way. I know you're already a global speaker, but just hope that you go to every country, maybe.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for watching. Why am I being emotional now? Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Please leave your comments below and always tell us who you would love next on the show. Thank you so much, and we truly hope you have a good time. Mwah. Thank you.